Thank you so much, Salome. It's so lovely to be here. Would you like to go first?
So my name's Cara, and I founded Cannabis Botanicals about 8 years ago. It started as a hobby and just my fascination with working with herbal medicines and with plants and concocting and doing the alchemy, doing a lot of work with the energies of the moon as well. What showed me the cannabis plant was a tendinitis that I had, a really bad tendinitis from a cooking job that I was doing and being in the kitchen every day. I would wake up at 3 in the morning with pins and needles down my arm, and I had tried everything and nothing was taking away the pain and the inflammation. A friend sent me a cannabis cream, and at this time there was no dispensaries, so going out to buy the stuff was pretty much impossible. So I used the cream, and within the first night, it worked wonders right away. It was magic. And I was able to use my arms again. So I went back to find some more of this cream, and I could not find the magic maker. So I decided to blend my own infusion and make my own medicine. And then I shared it with friends and family, and everyone really loved the effects that they got from it. So that was what birthed Cannabis Botanicals, was the very first cannabis salve that I made. That was our original product, and now we've expanded to include other types of topicals like massage oil, a jointment, a muscle rub,
a pleasure oil,
aphrodisiac. So we'll get into more of that as we talk. Siobhan came on with me at the point when I decided, okay, this isn't just something I'm gonna make in my kitchen and just slap on a label. I'm gonna take this to market and brand it. And so I had previous experience in branding. I had a fashion company and clothing line. So I sort of used that experience to create the brand Cannalife, and just working with amazing, creative, talented people, graphic designers, business development, and Siobhan came on and helped me with my sales. So we took it from Vancouver, which was just the very first dispensaries that were opening, to across the country now.
Yeah, it was a wonderful journey. I came on at Cannalife in 2005. I originally knew Cara through performance. I come from a performative background. I came to UBC 20-something years ago to study theater, film, and creative writing, and I ended up doing a minor in plants and people. I worked at Lush in the body shop, working in distribution and marketing, and I came to cannabis as a patient who had been hit by a car in my early 20s and spent 10 years being put back together, and just really found that topicals are a wonderful, wonderful, safe modality for administering medicine to very localized pain regions without any kind of psychological effects. So for me, that was just paramount to be able to help me and my wellness moving forward. A lot of people have a stigma around cannabis, especially there's this assumption that we're always taking the medicine through smoking or through eating, and a lot of people aren't aware of the wonderful healing properties that cannabis has for us in regards to just our skin alone. And so it's been a personal mission of mine to just try and help out as many people as I can and to pass the medicine on so that people aren't in pain and they can have a better quality of life.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we'll start with a little promo video that we put together for Cannalife. It just gives some insight to some of the processes that we do, which starts from our very own garden, harvesting some of the other herbs that go. We don't harvest our own cannabis, but we work with growers, small craft growers. But other herbs we do harvest. So we incorporate other herbal synergies like comfrey, nettle, calendula, to name a few. We'll get more into that. So this video just shows a little bit of that processes and then in the kitchen making it. So we'll see if it works. Oh, there we go. Is there a play button on it, Nafisa? Or if you double click? There we go. And then we need sound guy in the back just to turn the volume up a little, please. Could you turn the volume up, please? Volume? for the video. Thank you.
Fandango Records. A to jest Buddy Bye Bye Bass Taipan Fandango Gang. Specjalnie dla was, teraz powiem wam parę słów. Yo, okej. Konopia zawiera składniki, które zmniejszają ból oraz działają przeciwzapalnie.
Well, it doesn't seem to be going. Oh, here we go.
W medycynie i religii używana była od tysiącleci, aż nagle została zakazana i uznana za narkotyk przez wszechwiedzących niewolników Babilonu. Słuchajcie,
Like we have some reggae in the background too.
teraz legalizacja tu. Rzeczpospolita Polska zakazy ubrana, nikogo nie zabiła, a jednak zakazana. Dla nas na sakramentem jest marihuana.
Thank you.
So we've got some reggae happening on top, a nice natural mix.
So there was a little insight into some of the processes, but you saw the salt bath being stirred up. All right, we can turn it off now. Thank you.
One of the things that sets Cannalife apart in the marketplace is that we work, we're whole plant medicine. We work with whole plants. We like to be organic as much as possible. And we work with different plant essences in collaboration with one another. So it's the synergistic effect of all of the herbs working that gives the optimal effect.
So we operate out of Squamish, BC, and take pride in providing premium cannabis-infused medicinals and topicals. We work with alchemy, so that's bringing together unique plant synergies to promote deeper healing. So not just the cannabis plant, but finding ways that it works with other plant medicines to provide an even more potential. And then our goal is really to connect people to nature's medicine in hopes of supporting your healing process and also honoring these ancient herbal remedies and age-old traditions. So we use traditional infusion methods. So it's a slow, warm infusion of the herb, so using whole plant medicine rather than working with extraction. So there is some other brands that might infuse their products with, say, shatter or hash,
Or distillate, isolate,
CO2 extracted cannabis oil. We really are firm believers in using the plant in its original form to really harness as much potential from the plant as possible. So all of the cannabinoids, not just the THC or CBD.
We really believe in not using any solvents in the extraction process. We're using an infusion. We work with these ancient remedies of heat and cold. If it's not broken, why do we have to try and fix something? Why are we putting toxins in our products? We want things to be as clean and as pure as possible. We're also handcrafted. We're making everything by hand. So there's intention in the medicine as it's being made.
Yeah. So next. So this is just a little bit more about us. We've already introduced ourselves, but I'll just mention that as far as my journey with working with herbal medicine making, started in the desert of San Luis Potosi in Mexico. I was doing a shamanic practitioner training, and so learned with Toltec shamans on methods of working with the consciousness of the plant and working with plant communication and how to bring them together, really. So as well as the technical mixing of the formulas. And then since then, it's just been self-studied of herbalism and medicine making and doing other various workshops as well.
A lot of trial and error.
So next. Next slide, Nafisa. Oh, there we go. So what I love about Siobhan is that she's really a self-proclaimed urban gardener and kitchen witch. You want to speak to that?
Absolutely. Early on, I came to realize that plants are just such beautiful, beautiful beings, and the more that we can honor them and respect them and learn from them, the better off we are. There have been many times in my life, in my healing process, that I was pushed onto synthetic pharmaceutical drugs that were not necessarily serving me. They might have been dealing with pain and a Band-Aid effect, but definitely were causing a lot of other problems that were not worth the pain relief that they were providing. So I feel that as much as we can get back to the root of the medicine, then the better off we can be. And it's just been a really great journey. I think through this process, it's been lovely to meet such a wonderful community and to try and bring the medicine to some of the more remote communities that might not have the luxury that we've had in Vancouver over the past 3 years. I mean, we have lived in a Gotham-like experience with the dispensaries and access here. So for me, I'm just really curious as how access will work in the future insofar as topicals.
No, thank you. And next, Nafisa.
So we're sourcing our ingredients both locally and ethically. So we're quite mindful of where the medicine is coming from and
how it's been grown as well.
We want to make sure that our products are tested. We try to be mindful of the raw material, the plant matter, before we're working with it, as well as through the entire process. So that makes us conscientious of what we're putting forth into the marketplace, and so that we can be accountable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we can get into talking about some of the actual herbal infusions and cannabis alchemy. One of my favorite methods when I first started was to do a long moon infusion. So starting on the full or the new moon, depending what energies that you want to bring into the infusion, and then it will the herb will actually sit in the oil that you've chosen, which could be any carrier oil from olive oil, coconut oil, apricot oil. So really researching what properties you want to bring in with the oil, and if you have any sensitivities, and then stuffing the herb in there and shaking it throughout the moon cycle. So that's a beautiful way to do it. Another way, which is the process that we use now, because of course we're doing much larger batches.
It's all about demand, supply and demand.
Yeah. So we use a slow heat process. So we bring it between 140 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit and do a slow infusion for 18 to 24 hours. When you're doing a smaller batch, you don't need as much time. So we chose, most of our salves and balms use olive oil as the base oil, because it's one of the least that have allergens, correct?
Yeah.
And for our massage oil, we use apricot oil.
Which is so luxurious on the skin.
So nourishing
so
on
lovely.
the skin. And then there's other oils that are added to each formula to really give to the alchemy of what we're trying to achieve with that formula. So for example, our arthritis balm, we add in castor oil as well. And the beauty of castor oil is that it's very deep penetrating. So it's bringing the medicine deeper into the joints and into the tissues for the pain relief.
And then it's great in the arthritis balm as well, because there's the lemongrass, the cedarwood, the ginger. These are all really warming, amazing herbs that help with circulation, get the blood flow going. So it's really great, gentle yet effective approach to applying the medicine.
Mm-hmm. So we can talk a little bit about topicals on the next screen. So how do topicals work?
I'm just really curious here. Does anybody have any arthritis or any kind of rheumatoid arthritis, regular arthritis, pains, aches, joint issues? Anybody's been an athlete who then hurts too much the next day? Just have an idea. And how many have used a topical before? Okay,
oh,
that's
wow,
amazing.
How many have made your own topicals? Great, love it. Well, I'm
Beautiful.
looking forward to hearing about your own recipes as well when we get to our Q&A. And feel free, if anyone has any questions as we move along, just raise your hand and we can make it conversational as well.
Absolutely.
So how do topicals work? Cannabis-infused lotions, sprays, balms, oils carry the cannabinoids, so THC, CBD, into the skin. When applied to the skin, the extracts activate the endocannabinoid system and bind to the CB2 receptors to then relieve pain, inflammation, soothe irritations.
It's wonderful. I think cannabis is a wonderful amplifier, and it tends to work really well with other herbs to bring out a wonderful synergistic effect. I have thyroid disease and a lot of swelling lately, and I've been using a ginger oil in our neutral cannabis massage oil, and I just noticed such a more intense experience, and a delivery is much more rapid when I'm putting the ginger with the neutral cannabis oil. It's just so fascinating to see how this amazing herb works really well for us with other herbs combined.
And which is exciting about creating your own topicals, because then you are choosing what intuitively feels right for your body and for your ailments, choosing what plants you might want to put together with the cannabis, as well as the essences. So I really encourage you to research the essential oils that you want to add, and work with the synergies that can come from it, and work with then what you also enjoy the smell of.
Absolutely. We do a massage oil that's called Soothe that has cinnamon and peppermint in it, and I think from an aromatherapy perspective, I wouldn't have naturally considered putting those two together, but when they're combined with the cannabis oil in a massage oil delivery, I'm finding that can be a really great rapid entry point, especially when I'm in spasm with my sciatica. So it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. And so just in some of my research on how topicals work, I found a study that was really interesting in the Journal of Dermatological Science. And so they studied the CB1 and CB2 cells and found that they're found in the skin cells, the hair cells, the sweat glands, and the abundance of these receptors indicates the therapeutic potential that the cannabis can have topically for anti-inflammatory and pain relief. And also, I guess then the benefit for those that don't want the associated psychoactive, the high, or the intoxicating effect of cannabis, that through the skin, you may experience a euphoria, but most will not actually get high from the cannabis.
I find pain relief very euphoric. Mm-hmm. Nothing. I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think people just want to be conscientious if they're driving or
Mm-hmm.
if they're new to cannabis. It's a wonderful entry, an introduction to cannabis if somebody's quite concerned or they're worried, not only just
about
the legal aspects, or just a lot of people would like to utilize cannabis without getting high. And so it's a really wonderful way to kind of introduce this low and slow approach and to really educate people about how it can be a wonderful tool applied topically.
And I feel like you all would already know this, but just to list off some of the common uses for topicals, anything from arthritis to burns, pain management, anti-inflammatory, insect bites, true story. I use it on my daughter all the time, our cannabis salve. Any mosquito bites, put it on, and within minutes the swelling's gone down. It's really sort of a heal-all, something to have in your medicine cabinet. Diaper rash, even, for my baby, was...
My son had MRSA as a boy, and we don't have any flare-ups of the MRSA in the skin. And if people don't know what that is, it's a strep of the skin that you don't really kind of ever get over, and it causes it's really resistant to any antibiotics. So we have to be really mindful in my house to not burn out antibiotics. So there's no antibacterial soap. It's just soap. And so the cannabis has been really wonderful to help manage his skin and to keep any future flare-ups at bay. I mean, he was a baby when this happened, and he's now 10, and we haven't had any challenges for many, many years. So it's quite wonderful.
Great.
I'll also be vain and say it's wonderful cosmetically. I mean, it's wonderful wrinkle reduction.
Yeah, when my first product was in the R&D stage, and I was handing it out to friends, I had one friend use the cannabis salve on her temples for migraines, and it would work pretty much instantly, would help her migraine to go away. And after a week of using it, she looked in the mirror one day and said, wow, it's actually smoothing out my lines. So that was sort of a accidental discovery of how else the cannabis salve could work
As
for
I get
anti-aging.
Absolutely. As I get older, I'm mindful. I really enjoy to puff, but I'm worried about the little lines, and I'm very grateful to the lip balm to try to keep the lips nice and plump and nice and nourished.
And then to skip ahead to the last one there on the list, sexual lubricant. So cannabis, as you know, is historically has been used as aphrodisiac, and so topically it works to give warming sensation and bring blood flow to the area.
Absolutely, and we have a wonderful pleasure oil that we mix with myrrh, and myrrh was a natural douche that's been used for years in the Middle East, and as a woman, there's nothing worse than a night of fun and a week of monostat. So we're by women for women, so it's really nice to be working with herbs that are kind of based for our own pH balance, and that can work to entice the experience, not have any kind of regrets afterwards. I don't know why I leave the house. It's a great product. Absolutely, it does come in travel size.
And then another discovery with the pleasure oil, that was a
it was a happy find. It was a happy find. It came, we were selling a lot of it to a wonderful sex shop in Toronto. There are two of them. One was called Good for Her and the other one was called Come As You Are. And they wanted the one with cinnamon in it. And we didn't really know why they couldn't keep it on the shelves. But cinnamon has been proven, or through what we were being told, is really great for anal sex. There's a little bit of a numbing that happens with the cinnamon. So it's popular.
And also with the pleasure oil, or any oil, I know of women who will put some onto their tampon during their menstrual cycle and insert it, and it helps with the pain relief.
We have a testimonial right here.
Yeah, and so the way that we do formulate it with the myrrh and the frankincense, not all essential oils are safe internally in the vagina, but the myrrh and frankincense are, and have been used throughout history for antibacterial, for douche, for
they're also really
aphrodisiac as well.
and also quite nourishing. I mean,
Nourishing.
as I'm getting older, gravity is not a nice being.
And they're a very anti-cancer as well. So we really consciously source and choose the ingredients that we use. So we'll talk a little bit about the ingredients that go into our products, and then we will share a basic cannabis salve recipe for you and answer any questions that you have. So first we have the cannabis salve. That was our OG, original product that healed my tendinitis and then went on to my community to help many ailments, from healing ACL surgery, healing migraines, and some of the others.
It's been popular in old folks' homes because it's been giving a lot of people relief who have shingles, and it's also been giving relief to herpes. So that's another...
What's amazing about the cannabis salve is the other plants that we use, like the St. John's wort and calendula. They also help to heal nerve damage. So any nerve damage that was done from the shingles, it can help to heal that, and it can be very painful after the disease is even finished. So this is a great formula to help heal that. So we've put into the cannabis salve goes calendula, very healing for the skin, chamomile and antispasmodic, and works on the nerves and the muscles. St. John's wort to promote healing, relieve inflammation. The oils that we've chosen is olive oil and coconut oil, and then use the beeswax to create the salve consistency.
The firmness.
The firmness. Yeah. And lavender and rosemary. Rosemary actually acts as the natural antioxidant and, I guess, preservative, you could say, a natural way of preserving the medicine. So skip ahead.
So this is one of my favorite products, the arthritis balm. I am always so happy when I'm able to pass this off to people. Yesterday, I really enjoyed giving it to all of the wonderful people supporting our conference, the security people who've been on their feet all day and quickly trying to close the door so they don't get the cannabis smell in the building. You know, sometimes if you can make their feet happy, they'll be a lot happier the next day. I love giving it to conference workers and people who are on their feet. It's just so wonderful on your feet at the end of a day. Really great on your joints. It's deep, penetrative, it's warm. I have a partner who spends a lot of time working on the computer, has really bad carpal tunnel. This is probably one of the only things that's giving him relief without him having to move over to a narcotic. It's just really, really effective. Has anybody here tried it? Mm-hmm. Okay, there's some samples in the basket that's going around.
Yeah. So into the arthritis balm, we also use comfrey with the cannabis and nettle. So comfrey and nettle are also traditionally used for healing the joints and inflammation. So we found that it was a really beautiful synergy. The nettle is harvested in the spring. We do as much harvest as we can, and then we have other suppliers for when we can't keep up. The comfrey is grown in my garden, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful plant with the grandmother energy.
Yeah. And the ginger.
And then the essential oils that we chose is lemongrass, ginger, and cedarwood for this very warming essence that it brings to the balm, and very powerful as well for anti-inflammatory and for helping circulation.
It also gives a wonderful nose to the product. We have a lot of people who say, you know, I really want to use something, but I don't want to smell like weed. It's
Yeah,
kind
the
of a comment
lemongrass
that
really
I'm
cuts
so the
it.
lemongrass is a wonderful complementary essential oil that really does a lovely job of kind of masking some of the earthier tones of the cannabis and makes it a little bit more pleasant to put on.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then next is our most recent formulation, which is a muscle rub. We started working with a lot of athletes and who were just begging for something that was like a tiger balm, something that was strong and very cooling. So we worked with some essential oils like wintergreen and camphor. Wintergreen is actually like a natural form of aspirin. So for great pain relief and that real cooling effect on the muscles. Oh,
added a little bit of extra CBD to it. There's some nutmeg and black pepper, which really help with any kind of spastic issues. More and more as I'm researching pain and the new approaches to pain, it's interesting how the paradigm and the philosophy around it has shifted. And so it's interesting to see how there's almost an approach to aggravate the muscle to have it then relax. So I find sometimes if I use this with a bit more of a vigorous massage as I'm putting it into the system, that then my muscles are really happy to receive it. And I find it's very complementary. There are times when I'll put if I'm in a lot of pain, I'll put the arthritis balm on first, and then I'll layer the muscle rub, just trying to make sure that I'm dealing with both the joint and the muscle area. So I'll deal with the arthritis balm around my knee and my hip, and then I'll work with the muscle rub in the thigh and the quad and the quadricep and the hamstring. I've had my knee transplanted with different ligaments different times, and so I'm finding if I'm using the two formulations concurrently in collaboration that I'm getting ultimate effect for the full leg.
And our feedback on the muscle rub is that it definitely helps speed up recovery time. The arnica in there as well is to thank for that. So very anti-inflammatory and great for the muscles and any injuries as well. I find that after a huge hike or a day of skiing, if I have a bath in our cannabis soak, bath salt, then it really helps to pull out any toxins and that lactic acid. And then after the bath, I'll put on the muscle rub, which then is just more penetrating, I guess, into after a warm bath.
Absolutely. I think the skin is somewhat parched because of the salts, and so it's been leached a little bit, and it's so looking forward to being rejuvenated with moisture. And so I find that it really helps as a rapid delivery system is to really manipulate being in the salt water and then opening up all those pores and then delivering through either the massage oil or through the muscle rub. It's really, really effective. I do give a bit of a caution. I did it a few times with the soothing one, and the peppermint and cinnamon was a little, I'm very sensitive skin, and it was a little bit aggressive. So I've learned on that one.
So yeah, I find if I do that process after, a long hike or workout, then I'm not, by day 2, it's usually day 2 or 3 that you get the soreness from the lactic acid. So I won't get that, I won't experience that same soreness in the muscles. So if I skip the bath and the muscle rub and don't do it because I'm too busy for self-care.
It's hard to get up the stairs the next day.
By day 2 and 3, you're like walking up the stairs so sore.
Or
so
down
that's my
with the
experience.
calves. We've been working with a lot of athletes as well. We've been working with some MMA fighters. We've been working with a skateboarder, a wonderful pole dancer, and lovely people who are doing their athletic kind of initiatives in many different forms. And so we like to see how effective it is for people, and we've been getting lots of really wonderful feedback. So.
And then up next we have a coconut oil. So we put up this screen just to talk about, I guess, creating a more neutral topical for people with sensitivities to the essential oils. There can often be allergies to things like lavender, and so we'd encourage always doing a test patch on your wrist first. So the coconut oil is a great neutral oil that then can be used both edibly and topically, and just amazing for self-care, even for the hair.
For everything. I use it in my hair to keep it really moisturized. I feel like, you work in the business when you're shaving your legs with it. It's just so beautiful. You get a lovely close shave and your skin is so moisturized afterwards. It's really great as an edible as well. We have a wonderful website with a bunch of different recipes of how to cook with the coconut oil as well as our olive oil.
Put it in your coffee.
Put it in your coffee.
Blend
Bulletproof coffee is a really great way to start the day.
So yeah, I would say that coconut oil would definitely be a very broad way of infusing the cannabis and then using it for many different applications.
Just to be mindful though, our coconut oil, we are quite potent. 1 teaspoon is about 25 milligrams, so just to be mindful of that. We tend to be quite potent because we're working with whole plant.
Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll just open up for any questions so far, and then we'll share a basic salve recipe and just talk about ingredients that you can put together.
Hi there.
Hi.
What do you see as the legal technicalities for operating a topical company in this new environment? I'm just curious. The limitations I understand are less. I've read all the regulations, but they're kind of mind-boggling.
It is.
What's
It's a lot to navigate, and which is partly why we're also sharing
How to make it.
because
and how to buy it and stock up.
We might not be able to make it after legalization, at least for another year or two, and that's uncertain. Some of the information that I've kind of pulled threads from all of the gray area is that it looks like for the beginning that cannabis won't be able to be mixed with other herbs and other fragrances for phase 1 of the legalization.
So I'm going to be frank here. We've made a mistake. Like our community in what we've been putting forth, I feel like the topicals have been left out. I feel like the safest modality got forgotten. So this is an opportunity to please write to your MLA, write to the people in power, educate them, tell us where they live so we can send them a sample and change their lives too. There's a problem that this form of medicine has been missed. It is literally the safest modality. My personal opinion is because it crosses over into cosmetics, which is about money, and the government wants to make more money. We just want to be able to help people. So it's really concerning for us when we're hearing that the main premise of the success of our company and the delivery of the medicine is through this synergistic effect of plant medicines working in collaboration. If that's now being told to us that we can't do that, I mean, we're going to have to start teaching people how to be doing their own mixology and their own alchemy at home, or we can lobby and get it changed. I'd prefer the latter. Let's get this changed.
Both. Both, right?
Both, but I just
Definitely.
know that a lot of people don't have the time, and if you're quite sick, you're often not in a place to be able to make your own. You know, we do have some conveniences of time to be able to facilitate larger batches to get the medicine out. Not everybody has the ability to kind of shake everything at home.
And then also to give something that's consistent and it's been lab tested, and with all of our products come with labels that state how much milligrams of THC and CBD are in the
what
formula.
strain is being utilized. I mean, it's a very nebulous market right now where often people aren't even aware of where the medicine's coming from, what type of medicine, how has it been handled, what's the intention. So we're really encouraging the proponent of craft, and not just craft from cultivation and processing, but craft makers as well. So please be mindful of this community that's been a little forgotten.
Yeah. And what I have seen is that some LPs will be selling topicals, but to mix yourself at home. So you'll
get
basically
a
buy cream.
base, a base cream, and then your activated THC
Which comes as an oil, and you inject into the cream and mix it up.
at home, because that's convenient.
A petition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Will you start a petition?
yeah. Right.
Or are we
that's
flagging
great.
ourselves to wear orange for 14
right now
years?
we're doing a client reach out to customers that have purchased off our website or signed up for our newsletter on our website. We just recently did a survey about their experience with our products, and if they had a testimonial to share, what kind of products they'd like to see. And it was amazing. The results were just incredible, and just to see how much this medicine has really changed people's lives. And testimonials like people with arthritis who have never found medicine so effective, and that they were then able to drop their pharmaceuticals in swap of using topical cannabis. We had, I think, a 20% response rate within the first 2 days on this survey. So that was really, really exciting for us, and just to hear all the stories shared as well. So we'll be sending that survey out again if you'd like to receive it. We'd love your input. Our booth is up on this level, booth 6, so you can leave your email address there. And actually, there should be a link on our website to get to that survey as well. So thank you. Yes.
Hi, with these oils and liquids or lotions and things like that is all medical, and it really pisses me off with the government, because with it coming legal for the recreational, it opens a lot of doors, but for medical it's closed in and really, really restricted. Why wouldn't the Health Canada allow something like this be under the medical part for things like arthritis? And I see a lot of people going to the dispensaries for medical reasons because they can't get an approval for a balm for their arthritis.
I think the main reason why is that there just hasn't been enough clinical trials to support it. So that would really be one of the first steps in the movement towards legal cannabis topicals is clinical studies. So we're looking at working with some universities to do clinical trials, and in the meantime we're doing our own, really, just by collecting as much information that we can from customers, our patients, and their testimonials.
I mean, for years, nobody talked about anything. We were all very closeted. We would only share our findings with one another in a very trusted environment that definitely wasn't at this scale. As we evolve and as we share our findings, as we're experimenting with ourselves, and we're sharing these testimonials, then we're able to have more of a body to put forth to prove the efficacy of this amazing plant. As we move forward into clinical trials and case studies, one of the challenges of our company is we realize and we really honor that the plant, again, in collaboration with other plants, is where it's optimal. So it's going to be a process of having to do clinical trials with the plant on its own, slowly introduce the other plants. It's quite a convoluted system, and the matrix of the plant of cannabis is quite vast onto its own, never mind with the other plants. So it's quite a journey that we have ahead of us. And again, all we can do is encourage one another to share both positive and negative outcomes when you're sampling new products. Because it's not like our pharmacists know. Yeah, the sensitivities, that's the challenge. I think one of the reasons Health Canada is being very clear is that if it is an amplifier and somebody's utilizing the cannabis with a lavender and say they're allergic to the lavender and then that's amplifying the lavender, then that's going to be a problem. So I think the government's coming from a cautionary point of view because they just don't know.
And question up there. We'll see if we can hear you, otherwise we'll run up the mic. Okay.
Expiration dates, yes. I mean, one of the things that we found in regards to expiration dates is to be really mindful of what the carrier oil is that we're working with. At one point, we were working with grapeseed oil, which is a little almost as finicky as cannabis can be, and doesn't have the best shelf life. It doesn't work well with Epsom salts. Like a lot of trial and error to kind of figure out that when we were working with the massage oil, it was better to kind of shift over to using the apricot kernel oil. It's much more luxurious. So
And it has a 2-year shelf life.
2-year shelf life. So when you're
really looking at the ingredients and the COAs of the oil that you're putting in.
That's the big part, is being mindful of the carrier oil that you're working with. I have a whole section in my fridge now that is allocated towards cannabis medicine. My son, don't go on this shelf. That's a good question. Do you know?
I think generally for the cannabis, for the THC and CBD, that it is then preserved into the oils, because the oils is absorbing it, and that's how it is brought into your bodies. But I would say around a year, and I don't know, there's just not enough science around it.
No.
Question at the top? Sorry, what was the preservative?
THC is a preservative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is a wonderful anti-fungicide for sure, and there's definitely wonderful qualities to it. It's just, again, we don't have the history that's been passed down in a scientific way.
There just hasn't been the research. But as far as other herbs will stay activated in a salve and an oil for up to 2 years. So I would say that is a safe.
But like not in the trunk of your car in the summer, you know,
Yeah,
like in a cool medicine cabinet with the.
Yeah, always
Actually, to
best
be
to
honest,
put
the
in-
medicine cabinet is probably the worst place to put it, because of the steam and the heat and the breeding places in a bathroom. I tend to keep some of the other things more in the kitchen.
Yeah,
to be
or the
honest.
bottom cupboard type thing. And definitely when you are creating your own topicals, using glass is always best, and amber glass or blue glass specifically, because then it is not affected by the light.
Yes. Well, they were asking. Oh, yes. Okay. The question that had been asked was in regards to the shelf life of the cannabis itself, and we were just articulating that it depends on the carrier oil.
Yeah. Okay. So, one more.
A lot of the spas use their ingredients, their oils. They go to a lot of pharmaceutical companies, and they work within each other. So maybe that would be an avenue that we can start to work in. It's very hard to get out there, but we're really trying to push that to get a lot more spas to be using CBD oils and whatnot within the industry, to kind of get the government to more regulate it easier and be willing to work with us.
We have been in some spas with some proprietary owners who are very forward-thinking. As we also mentioned, we're also in a few, we're in quite a few dispensaries as well as some of the sex shops. We have some, massage therapists, but again, everybody's working from a place of waiting for legalization, not wanting to get themselves in trouble. I think there are going to be a lot of wonderful dialogues moving forward, and again, I do really feel that the cosmetic industry will be one that will be benefiting from the amazing elements of cannabis. I mean, Sephora's already got a mascara with THC in it, so.
Wow. We do. Okay, sure. So the question about if we work with any spas, we do actually work with a few RMTs, massage therapists, and they offer the cannabis massage oil by choice. If a client wants to have a cannabis massage oil massage, then they will offer that in their clinics, and they've experienced really good feedback on that. Yes?
Yeah. I'm happy to, okay, the question is trying to get more in the system earlier on for massage therapists so that when they're going to get their license that they've already been educated about cannabis so that it can be an option that they're able to utilize for their patients and their clients. I'm happy to have a breakout conversation with you after. I mean, that's kind of what we're always wanting to do, is be that polite, respectful disruptor and trying to encourage change. So I'll happily follow up with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll move ahead onto our do-it-yourself recipe for a base of a cannabis salve, and then we can answer any more questions. We'll try it with the microphone in the next round. So if you just save your questions for the end here. So this is like the very basic how I started making my very first salve. Now it's made in a commercial kitchen, so we use very large equipment, large pots, and
it's been
agitators and different things to...
It's grown according to scale of the demand of having to meet all of the fulfillment that's being put forth. So,
but to go back in time to make a recipe which would yield about 2 cups.
Which would be reasonable for you to utilize and do at home.
And it's nice to start with a small batch so you can get to know the consistency of the medicine that you want to make, and then maybe next you take your notes, your batch notes, and then maybe next time you double or triple the batch so then you have enough to share with family and friends. So the equipment would be a grinder or a food processor, and that's just to break up the trim. So for our topicals, we use a combination of flower and trim being shake, the leaf of the plant.
Sugar leaf.
So you don't want to blend it, you don't want to break it up too much. It's just rough, like how you would roll a joint. That just to get the crystals out and get the trichomes out and really
agitate it
and allow like more space for the oil to then pull the medicine out. Question at the top. In our processes, it's always dried. I know that there is definitely herbal processes that use fresh plant. For myself, I worry about the water content
with moisture and then
moisture
mold,
and then the expiry date. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, we always use dry. The cookie sheet is to lay the cannabis out on for decarboxylation, which we'll get to as well, because there is
you need to activate it.
Yeah, it's to activate it. But there is belief that you don't want to decarboxylate for topicals because you want to keep the THCA, which is the THC acid, because it works as a powerful anti-inflammatory with the CBD. Others do decarboxylate it to then activate the THC, and which still works as medicine with the CBD. So it's really a personal preference, and you just have to do your own research and see what works best for you. What I found works best is to do about a half decarboxylation. So what I would decarboxylate for an edible, I would take about half that time for a topical so that I get both sides of the cannabinoids.
You're doing a hybrid approach.
So then a heavy, medium-sized double boiler. What also would work really well is a crock pot, because you've got a controlled temperature. So anything that you can have a controlled temperature, because you don't want to scorch the oil. So for a double boiler, you could use a large pot with water, and then have your smaller pot
on
inserted in. A thermometer is really great, so you can control your temperature. A candy thermometer works good, like candy making. You want to keep your temperature between 140 and 160 during the infusion. Spoons or spatulas, of course, and then a fine mesh strainer, a sieve, or even cheesecloth would work. In the very beginning, I used
Coffee filters.
coffee filters. That's
Coffee
right.
filters.
Thank you.
I remember doing that.
Now what we use is bubble hash bags. So we use we infuse the oil in with the plant first so that it has full surface area to pull the medicine, and then it gets strained through a bubble hash filter bag to catch any of the plant material so that we get a very smooth,
sediment-free.
sediment-free. And in the beginning, to be honest, at the bottom of the salve, there would be some sediment. Now there's literally no sediment.
Yeah.
So we've really come a long way in our filtering and finishing processes.
It's nice that we all evolve.
Glass bowl or Pyrex is great to use once you've strained your bomb. Question?
So the question being asked is if the bag is heat proof.
Yes, the bubble hash bags are heat proof. You wouldn't want to use high temperature, but between 140 and 200 degrees would be fine. We cool it down to 140 before straining, so that's a good safe temperature for the straining.
They're asking if centigrades or Fahrenheit.
Oh, sorry, Fahrenheit. Thank you. Yeah. Sure. I can't do it off the top of my head, but what I'm going to offer to do is to post this recipe and information on
Our
my
website.
website, on the blog section. So you can go to cannalifebotanicals.ca and go to the blog section, and I should have that up by, let's say, Monday afternoon I'll get it up by. So we'll add it to our blog, and you can see it there. You're welcome. And then your storage containers. I mentioned that amber or blue glass would be the best option for storage. You can purchase those at soap and candle making suppliers such as Voyager. Soap and Candle is a great supplier. Do you
Yeah,
have any
there's a
others in
great
mind?
spot on Main Street, the soap shop. They've got a beautiful arsenal of different amber glasses and blue, cobalt blue glassware that you can facilitate there.
And when in doubt, the dollar store is amazing
Yeah.
for stuff like that. So next up
Cheap
ahead.
and cheerful.
Question? The supplier name? So the question was who was the supplier? Voyager Soap and Candle is really great, and you can actually purchase straight off their website. On Main Street?
The soap shop. I believe it's Main and 23rd on the east side of the street. Right by Front and Company in that area. You're welcome.
You're welcome. So moving on to the ingredients. So I would suggest between 7 and 10 grams of the roughly ground, as we talked about, dried cannabis. This is when you could also add in your other herbs if you're called to do that. The herbs that we use are arnica, calendula,
Lemongrass. No, that's an
the
oil.
essential
Sorry,
oil.
St. John's wort.
and comfrey, which is
Comfrey.
great for the joint pain and healing any injury as well. A great herb supplier would be Harmonic Arts is a really great supplier. You can see their website. And you can also harvest your own if you're called to do that. There's a wonderful herb that grows everywhere. It's called plantain. That's one that I haven't woven into the formulas yet, but I'm really fascinated by that medicine as well and its healing abilities. So it's really the process of researching and just working with the plants to see what you wanted to include. So 70 grams of the cannabis, 1.5 cups of coconut oil. So anywhere that you see oil in the recipe, it's really optional to use what oil you would like. So the coconut oil, I find having some of the coconut oil just adds a really nice texture to the salve so that it's the application is quite smooth to put on.
Yeah, it's nice and slick. It's not chunky.
And then
hard.
it also cuts down how much wax you have to use because it is a solid oil. I find that my personal recipes will actually change a little bit depending on the season. Because in the summer I would use less beeswax, in the winter I would use more. Or vice
Other way
around.
Yeah,
Thank
in the
you.
summer you want a little bit of beeswax because it's hot and
Hot
it'll
and
get
milk.
soupy and kind of really super slick and it doesn't keep its form. And in the winter, which was one of the funny things, you were traveling and we were like, it's kind of hard to get on our skin in the winter. And you're like, but I'm down in the south and it's beautifully going on.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
that's because you're in somewhere warm.
Yeah, and another oil that is wonderful to get that smooth texture is shea butter. So it has wonderful properties too for skin conditions like eczema, psoriasis. So really like weaving together the ingredients that you're called to use. So anytime you would add in another ingredient, you would just subtract it off. So if you wanted to split up coconut oil between coconut oil and shea butter, you could do, say, 1 cup of coconut oil, 1/2 cup of shea butter would be a nice ratio. With shea butter, I just want to mention it's really important to heat it first and melt it down, whisk it really well, and then add it to your main infusion after. So the only oils that should go into the first stage of your infusion is your liquid oils. So anything that's not going to go solid, because when you go to strain the herb out, you don't want it to start to solidify. So I would recommend to do your infusion in the olive oil, apricot oil, castor oil, whatever oil it is that you choose. We can talk about the benefits of the different oils if you like after. And then you need your essential oils if you choose, and the beeswax. You can also use, if you are vegan or don't want to use the beeswax, there's a wonderful wax called carnauba wax, and that is a good alternative. I find with the carnauba wax, I use a little bit less than the beeswax because it's a much harder wax. And again, all these waxes would be available at the soap and candle making shops. A good ratio for the beeswax is 15 to 25%. And again, that's depending on the desired texture. So if you want a very hard salve or you want something that has more of like a Vaseline type texture to it, you would use less beeswax. And it also depends on the size of the batch. I find that if I'm working with a small batch, I need about 25% beeswax. When we get into a very large batch, our batches, which would be about 35-liter batches, would only take 15 to 18% beeswax, so quite a bit less the larger the batch. So as far as the decarboxylation, we talked about there being sort of varying opinions about the decarboxylation and approaches. So I do know that the THCA is beneficial with the CBD as an anti-inflammatory. So when you decarboxylate, it's actually converting the THCA into THC. So that was why I've chosen a half decarboxylation. So for edibles, I would use 30 to 30 minutes. With topicals, I would use only 10 to 15 minutes. So it's also, the purpose of it is to really get the herb dry and get any moisture out of the herb as well. Again, there's varying opinions on the degrees to use. I use 220 degrees. So the first step would be to then decarboxylate your cannabis, prepare your herbs, measure out your oils, and beeswax. And the first step of the infusion is to add the herbs and the olive oil, any liquid oils together, and then have it on a slow heat of 140 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit for about 2 to 4 hours would be enough time to pull the cannabinoids. When you get into a larger batch, like the 35-liter batches we do, sits for 18 to 24 hours to really activate.
And pull all the medicine out.
You can never go too long, I don't think. I think at 2 to 4 hours you would capture the medicine, but at 8 hours
You'll get a more optimal
you get
effect.
more optimal. That's where the crock pot comes in handy, because you can just set it for the timer, set it for 6 and 8 hours and set your temperature and just allow it to do the magic.
And it's safe to walk away versus having to be there all the time.
Yeah, the low heat on the crock pot. And then again, you'd want to check it with your thermometer to see.
Sorry, just the question that was asked was what would be the temperature that you would put on the crock pot? And we're saying the low temperature.
Yeah, low. Some of them actually have the degrees in Fahrenheit and Celsius for those crock pots that don't have the degrees.
It's really helpful to have that thermometer, that candy thermometer. Pardon me?
It should be between 140 degrees Fahrenheit and 180 degrees Fahrenheit during the infusion process. Later, when you're adding in the beeswax, you may need to raise the temperature up to 180 to 200 to really get a full melt. So moving on to the infusion. Once the infusion process is done and you feel that it's ready to then do your straining, you're going to strain the oil through the filter, bubble bag, or cheesecloth to capture the plant. I find that it's much more efficient to do a 2-strain process. So your first strain is just through a regular sieve that you would have in your kitchen for straining noodles or for baking. That works great to get the plant matter out. Use your spoon or spatula to press the plant into the sieve to really get all the oils out. Another way would be to put a pair of gloves on. I guess you don't need to when you're preparing your own medicine.
Just get your mittens in there and give it a good squeeze.
And you can just squeeze it through the cheesecloth is a great way. Then you would do your second filtration through the finer mesh, which would be the cheesecloth or the filter bag, to then get any of the...
Or your coffee filter.
Actually,
we're working at
really
home.
great.
It's a really great process, and it's easy, and it's
you can use isopropanol to clean the filter first
and after.
So then next is to add in your solid oils. So the coconut oil, shea butter, anything like that. Again, melt it on a separate burner first. Add it to your infused oil, and then the beeswax is the final. Your beeswax
or the
carnauba. If you wanted to go for the massage oil, then this would be your massage oil. You just wouldn't add the wax. So you could actually make multiple products out of one batch of infused oil. You could make a massage oil, so pull your oil before adding the 15 to 25% wax. And you could make a lip balm. And for the lip balm, I would add in quite a bit more wax, so somewhere between 30 and 50% for a lip balm. So it's really a wonderful way to make multiple products. Bath oil is great as well. Once you're ready, if you are making a salve and want to add in the beeswax, it's best to melt it first as well on your double burner and add the liquid wax into the infused oil, which then should be kept at 140 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit so the wax doesn't solidify during your pouring process. So the very final stage after the wax would be to add the essential oils. It's important with the essential oils that you don't want the oil to get too hot, because then they'll start to evaporate. So really watching your temperature at this stage, add in your essential oils, use a whisk. If you have a strong hand, to whisk it up and really emulsify the oils. If you have a hand blender, that's also handy, or
a NutriBullet.
NutriBullet, yeah. So that would be the best way to mix it. And then you're ready to pour. What I think is a great practice on your pouring is to pour a small one first, put it in the fridge, and then once it's hardened, pull it out, let it warm to room temperature, and try it on your skin. Is it too waxy or not enough wax? And then you can play with your formula before you are committed to pouring the whole batch. So I think we can skip ahead. We just had a few photos of the process in the kitchen.
It's the coconut oil.
Yeah, coconut oil, shea butter, and wax, and there's a double boiler there. And you can skip ahead to the last pages, Nafisa. Thank you.
This one?
Okay, so that is our basic salve recipe. We'll answer some questions now. I'll go around with the mic so that we can hear you better. And then we'll just talk a little bit about our next project that we're working on.
Are there any other questions?
Any questions?
Is there any way to get a link to the presentation? I mean,
Yeah, I think what I'll do, as I mentioned, is for the presentation and for the recipe, I'm going to put it up on our Cannalife Botanicals blog. So I'll have it up by Monday for you on there. And please do visit our booth up here. And if you didn't get a sample from the basket that got passed around, we have more samples at the booth that we can give you. And we would love to get your email address for our newsletter and our survey as well. So we'll walk around for questions.
With the recipes you're going to be posting on your website, do you have separate recipes for one for arthritis, one for general, one for rub, or one for...
So the question was about recipes for specific ailments. That's where I would encourage you to do some research on the different ingredients that you could include in the formula for pain relief. I'm happy to answer more questions about that. All of our infographics that we show the ingredients, those are on our website, and then talk about specifically what ingredients are used for what ailments. You can, I won't give you my exact formula, but I'm happy to tell you what ingredients go into it, and you can work with that. I'm happy to share percentages as well of what herbs and essential oils for the formula.
A question about your recipe. With the percentage, are you doing that by volume or by grams? Just here at
There
the
you
bottom.
are. Could you repeat the question, Siobhan?
they wanted to know, are you working with grams? What did you say, question? Grams or mils for the beeswax?
For the beeswax. For the beeswax, it's best to do by weight. Yeah, so I can put that information as well. What I'll actually do is convert this recipe to percentages, so then you can work with any amount of formula. I put it into cups just because it's kind of like in the kitchen baking, and that's how I first started with the recipe. Oh, good question. So the beeswax percentage, would you compare it to the amount of coconut oil? So you would actually compare it to the whole batch. So the total weight or total volume of the batch times by the percentage. And again, start with the lower percentage, start with 15 to 20%, make a sample first, and then add in more wax as needed. And the most important thing when making your batches is really take notes so that then you know for the next batch what to do better. Question?
I'm wondering if you can tell me what the strength of this would be once you've made it, or where would you go for testing to find out what the strength would be, milligrams per whatever?
Great. I'll let Siobhan answer that.
On ours, they've all been lab tested, so the information is on the packaging. If you wanted to get your products tested, I used to work at Northern Vine Labs, one of the 18 labs approved by Health Canada for testing, so I would recommend them as a place for testing. However, you need to have your license to be able to test That's one of the requirements of Health Canada is you have to have your MMAR, your ACMPR to be able to test your cannabis.
Oh,
It would
so
depend
with this
upon
recipe,
the
yeah, it would depend on the
flower.
strength of the flour that you have. But this recipe was, if it was the flour that we use, it would be about 5 milligrams per teaspoon. So which is a nice amount for application. So we'll say a teaspoon is 5 mils. So in 5 mils, there would be 5 milligrams, or 1 milligram per mil.
And that's one of the reasons when you are getting your product tested, that's why it's really important to test your starting material first, your rough and ready, or your flour, your biomass, and then you want to test again your final product. So just to be clear of what the testing process is for best efficacy of the product.
Any other questions?
I think that's everything, yeah?
Yeah? Okay.
So as we wrap up, we would really just love to thank Salome. It's really important for us to point out our amazing colleague Nafisa, who's been up in the booth running our program for us. She will also be at the booth. So it's Nafisa, I'm Siobhan, and this is Cara. And we can't thank you enough for your interest and for attending this morning.
Yeah, thank you. And then I just wanted to mention that we are working on another brand right now, a new product line that does not have cannabis because we may not be able to operate in the legal framework after October 17th. So it's sort of our backup plan to buy us some time until topicals are legal, which I'm a firm believer that we will get there. So in this product line, we've used other magical ingredients that actually work with the body the same way that cannabis does with the pain receptors and the CB1 receptors. So it is called Luna Vita Botanica, and we'll be launching at the Vancouver Health Show at the end of October.
But you can have a sneak peek up in the booth. We have brought it here, so nobody else has seen it. This is fresh eyes just for you. And again, in that interim, we can't implore or encourage you enough that if you're capable of writing your opinions and sending them forth to decision makers, then we can help instill change.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.